What's up everyone, Vu of Envu Films, back with another video, and my apologies for this messy desk, messy office. I couldn't use a tighter angle because I need to show things here on my desk, and I could have cleaned everything up, but it's gonna take me at least an hour, and I figure I try to be authentic, unscripted on this channel, might as well show people the truth of how sloppy I live. With that said, I think we can all agree that life is about improving ourselves every day. And in improving ourselves as human beings, we always have to look towards others to try to be inspired by or mimic to improve. For example, a simple thing would be like a son watching what his father does and tries to mimic what he does, or vice versa, based on other influences in his life. Similarly, as those of you who watch my channel, I'm assuming you guys are all videographers, photographers, or something of that nature. If you're not, my apologies. But in our fields, whether it be professionally or being a hobbyist, we all want to improve what we do. Sometimes the improvements just happen, and sometimes we get inspired by another artist, another photographer, videographer, creator, and we produce work that is influenced by them, and we make it our own way. Right? So in that sense, not everything in life, and not everything we do, not everything in life is 100% just plainly original. Like no matter what, there's still a small percentage of something that is influenced by something else, whether it be a painting, a photography, videography, content, or whatever, right? And one could argue, hey, what if someone, is drawing, like what about someone's painting of a lake or something? That painting of a lake is still of something. That painting or that photo taken of that lake is still taken from something original, actually original, which is that lake. Whether you believe in God or not, or whether you believe that everything just happened, 100% randomly. So with that said, as a videographer, if I don't improve myself in terms of like my videos produced, how I film, how I edit, and I'm just complacent and I'm thinking, okay, you know what, this is good enough. I'm gonna just keep producing this and just keep charging the same amount or whatever for this basic, at this point, templated work. I am not going to be able to keep up. Eventually, others that just get into the field, they're gonna have a drive, they're gonna be more creative, they're gonna constantly improve themselves, they're going to look for other ways to make creative content. They're going to look for other ways to make videos more creative, and I'm going to fall behind. And then they're going to start getting hired, and they're going to start getting paid more. And then I'm going to be sitting here wondering what happened. Same thing goes to the products that we buy to aid us with our videography, photography, whatever. Do you think Juin and DJI were the first companies to make gimbals? No. There are other companies before them that made handheld gimbals. There was, you remember, for those you don't know, Came TV made gimbals before. DS1 made the Beholder before that I actually owned. The problem is they made these gimbals first, but they didn't expand upon it. And then Juin and DJI took those same ideas and took those same basic fundamentals of those gimbals and just made them better, added more features, the whole 9 yards, right? When you look at something as what I'm going to discuss today, ND filters, we all know it's been a pain in the ass to twist on and off filters when we have to change them. In my case as a videographer, I use a lot of ND filters, a lot of mist filters and stuff. And when I first started doing videography, I tried to use ND filters. And at that time, there's only the screw-ons. And I completely abandoned those filters because it is just impossible to change from setting to setting, indoors, outdoors, for like a run and gun wedding shoot, try to maintain my shutter speed to maintain proper motion blur. If I need to expose properly outside in bright sunlight while still maintaining a relatively wide open aperture, I'm gonna just crank shutter and then I'm gonna adjust it in post by doing some slow motion to avoid the jarring lack of motion blur footage that is created when you crank your shutter. So for those of you who don't know what cranking shutter is, don't know why you use an ND to maintain shutter speed for frame rates and all that stuff, you're going to have to watch another video. I'm not trying to explain it in this video. Which then came a company, Freewell, that made magnetic filters, which you see right here. As far as I know, I think Freewell was the original company that first created magnetic filters. Obviously now there's a bunch of other brands that make them, but I believe the original brand that made magnetic filters is Freewell. So kudos to them. Kudos to starting that trend. Now, here I have the standard magnetic filter system from Freewell, which basically is just the magnets, as you can see, just coming on and off. I have here stacked 4 of them. Usually I'll be just running one, which is a 1/8 mist filter, or if anything, I will run one of these ND filters. So there you have it. So, my usual setup would just be this 1/8 filter and then the ND filter that I need. Basically, you just attach this little magnetic or metal ring to your lens, screw this on, and after that, all you have to do is just attach and detach what you need and don't need. Very simple. You don't have to unscrew all these filters. And obviously, if you need more strength for your ND, you could always stack more of them on there, as you can see. It's a pretty simple setup. The only problem is I cannot tell you how many times I have knocked off one of these filters. Thankfully, I have not lost any of these, but there's other ones that I've lost before. And I believe there's a time when this one fell off. One of them fell off into the grass, and someone picked it up and gave it to me. So that kind of stuff happens all the time. And, there's no way to lock down this filter. There's no way, the magnets aren't particularly strong, and there's no real way to lock the filter down. Also, the grip is just pretty basic. Sometimes it is tough. If I have 2 of them stacked, sometimes it's hard for me to just pull off one. I end up pulling off both of them at the same time. Whatever. It works, but there are flaws to the system, obviously. Freewell also created the ND filter that's the same way. It's completely magnetic. This one, the magnets are even weaker. So, and the other problem is in order for this to be variable ND, you need 2 pieces of glass. The one piece of glass is inside, it has mist, and then the outside piece of glass would be the main variable ND filter. And, you could change your stops by just twisting it. However, the inside filter always has to have some type of ND on it. In this case, is a 1-stop ND, and this version also has mist. I'm not sure exactly what the mist strength is, but it is definitely not 1/8, as I'll show you in some samples later, that it has a lot more halation than a 1/8. So I'm assuming it's a 1/4, but they don't really state specifically what it is. So this is good and all, but also it also comes off easily. And I'm going to tell you things here that it's not like I've never actually addressed the Freewell. I'm not going to sit here and talk badly about Freewell. They've been sending me stuff for sampling and reviewing on YouTube, even when I only had like less than 2,000 subscribers. So, I'm not going to trash a company that literally gave me products that helped me with my job, which in turn helped me provide for my family all this time. However, I have told them many times, to try to improve, their filters, gave them some suggestions, for products, and for whatever reason, they just refuse to listen to what I have to say. Unfortunately for them, Nissi created their own line of magnetic filters. This is not a variable system. It is basically just the same system as this original Freewell magnetic system. It's individual filters that you need. So right now on the camera I'm filming with, Sony ZV-1 on 24mm, 67mm filter thread, I have on a 67 to 95mm filter thread, and I'm using a 1/8 mist filter from this magnetic system right now on this footage I'm filming with. The concept is clearly the same. So as you can see here, I have on with the Sony 28-70 f2 GM lens. GM stands for got money because this lens is expensive AF. So Nissi has just recently released 86 to 95 millimeter filter thread for their JetMag system, which is important because the GM, this 28-70 GM from Sony just released and has 86 millimeter filter thread. And a lot of people have been using 82 millimeters on this particular lens just fine, using an 86 millimeter to 82 millimeter stop down ring to be able to use 82 millimeter filters on the 28-70 GM. And for the most part, it works fine. No vignetting. However, that's only for video. If you're using filters for photography, there will be vignetting. If you want to stack filters onto the 82 millimeter filter on this 86 millimeter filter thread at 28 millimeters, it will eventually vignette once you get to like 2 or 3 filters. So that is something you want to consider. So obviously this is a completely foolproof way to make sure you get proper filters without vignetting on your 86 millimeter to 95 millimeter filter thread lenses. And from what I know, the most popular lenses right now with those filter threads is the 28-70 f2 for Sony with 86 millimeter and the 28-70 f2 for Canon that has 95 millimeter filter thread. If you buy the 86 millimeter to 95 millimeter version, it gives you 2 separate adapters. One is for 86 millimeter, one is for 95 millimeter. Obviously I have the 86 millimeter installed here. And then whatever filter you need, in this case, in this example, I have here an ND8. You just put it right here and it sticks on magnetically, just like so. However, as is, the magnets already feel stronger than the Freewell ones, but it also has a locking mechanism. So it's very much similar to Bones mount, or like one of those lens attachment, one of those, light modifier mounts. So basically on the adapter, there is a white line. And as you can see here, there is these blue little notches that come out of the magnetic filter. So once you attach the filter on to the adapter, you just twist until the notch goes over the white line on the adapter. Now this thing is locked. Like there's no way you could possibly pull this off of the lens. But as soon as you twist it away from the line, the filter can come right off. But you could freely use it without locking it if you know that you're going to be taking it on and off real quick. But honestly, for safety reasons, it's just a quick twist like this, and you want to take it off, twist, pull off, put it back on, twist, and it's locked in. And of course, these filters are completely stackable. So if you want to stack a mist filter, an additional ND, if it's really, really bright outside, same thing, you just magnetically put it on, and then you just twist it into place, line the notches up together, and you know it's going to be locked in. And then once you don't want one anymore, you just twist it and take it right off. And as you can see, they are really, really thin. 5 Nissi JetMag filters stacked is about the same thickness as 4 Freewell filters stacked. So Nissi ones are a lot thinner. Doesn't mean they feel any cheaper. And in my opinion, not only those notches, act as a locking system for the Nissi filters, it is also very helpful in terms of just having something for your fingers to grab onto. A lot of times when I grab onto the Freewell filters, when I'm in a rush, I end up like, my fingers are sweaty. It's as if I have a bunch of like egg roll grease on my fingers. And of course it rubs off on the glass, and then I'm gonna have to sit there and wipe it off, or else it's gonna affect my image. And the filters themselves come with like a back plate and of course a front plate, to protect the filters and all that stuff. And then it also comes with this nice little case. All these filters these days come with a nice case. So this is, nothing new, nothing like crazy, but it's good that it's there. But honestly, for me, I'm going to be keeping like these filters that I need in my pocket, because usually when I'm filming, I just need my 1/8 mist, and then I need ND filters, ND3, all I need is probably like maybe 3 of these ND filters, and I pick each one depending on the situation, depending how much light there is. And to be quite honest with you, I don't feel like this limits me much compared to like having a variable ND. If anything, I appreciate the fact that it's very easy to take on and off one. And usually in any given situation, I find that I'm only going to be on one particular like ND strength anyway. It's very rare where if I'm in a shoot and then I need to go from like one ND to the next. Usually as soon as I get out to the situation, I could tell, I already know what ND I need, and that one would probably stick for the entirety of the time. For example, if I'm shooting a wedding ceremony outdoors and it's sunlight, usually that 30 minutes outside, the light's not going to change enough where I'm going to need to switch NDs. And also, if you're shooting like Sony a7S III, FX3, FX6, or any other camera that might have like a higher base ISO, for example, if I'm in like a reception, most of the time, even at like f1.4, 1.8, f2, that is still too dark for using the base ISO of 640 or 800. And you're going to have to go to the second base ISO in these reception situations, even though you're going to 12,800 ISO for that second base. Now, and this is also including me lighting the reception. It's just how dark it usually is. You don't want to like just blast the whole reception with bright ass lights. You want to maintain people's vibe. You want to maintain the atmosphere that the bride and groom wants. So you do have lighting just for that contrast, but it's not going to like light the scene, brighten up the scene, like you might think. So you're still going to have to be in 12,800. However, 12,800 could be too bright for the given situation. And most of the time, sure, I'll crank shutter. It's fine. But what does these venues have? These venues have really crappy LED light bulbs. So if they have like chandeliers and stuff like that with crappy ass lighting, or like fairy lights with crappy ass like LED quality, you're going to get flickering if you're cranking your shutter. So to limit cranking your shutter for good exposure and you're shooting wide open, you use an ND filter. So at 12,800 ISO, I find myself using an ND filter quite a bit to maintain a 180 degree shutter angle, or like 1/50 for 24 frames per second, or 1/125 or 120 for 60 frames per second. And with just like an ND, like a 3-stop ND or something like that, that's usually enough for me to get the proper shutter speed, get the proper exposure, and eliminate or minimize the flickering from the crappy LED lighting in the reception. So for you FX3, A7S III, ZV1, FX6, high base ISO cameras out there, ND during darker environments at 12,800 is going to be highly recommended. And I've been using that for a while. And again, like, I'm not against cranking shutter. Like, in many situations, even with these NDs on, if I don't have time to like switch out, I don't mind cranking the shutter a little bit. Like, I don't mind going to like 1/200, 1/250 or something to get the exposure I need. It's like, as I have gotten better at editing and maturing as a videographer, editor, I find myself not wanting to use slow motion all the damn time. Like, I would say 50-50 when I'm doing like a highlight edit or short film edit of a wedding. I'm going to want to have normal speed stuff. Like, not everything is going to be, 40% speed, 20% speed. I want normal speed footage in these edits. And if I'm cranking my shutter 1/2000 in the middle of the afternoon, and I use that footage at standard speed, that footage is going to look very harsh if it's a moving shot. So, I'll tolerate probably up to like 1/500 if needed, but I would not go any further than that. But from the looks of it, because I'm going to be using mist filters a lot, or probably all the time, I want to compare what the mist filter does to the image. And just by looking at the sample footage, this is from the 28-70 f2 GM lens. I tested at 28 millimeters, 50 millimeters, and 70 millimeters. And the Nissi 1/8 mist is actually a 1/8 black mist. And you can clearly see that it maintains much better contrast in the footage, whereas the Freewell one seemed a little bit more washed out. I also know that these Nissi filters eliminate, I believe it's IR noise. I don't know too much about it. I'm not getting too much into it, but these filters do, have a true color the same way their Nissi Swift filters have, and it maintains as close to the natural color of the lens as possible. And as you can see, these tests here where I'm comparing like the lens by itself and the lens with the filter on, you can see the colors remain pretty consistent. Again, not a scientific test by any means, but just from the looks of it, it seems pretty accurate. Other than that, I also took a look at flaring and halation. And as you can see clearly, all three filters, the Nissi and the two Freewell ones, has some flaring on it. But the Nissi one, the 1/8 mist, seems very nice and controlled. Whereas you can see the mist halation from the variable versatile Freewell mist VND, the halation could be a bit much. A lot of is more stylistic than I would like it to be, but does not mean it's not usable. This is, this is obviously like a very tough shot with, a bright light right against the lens. So in my opinion, without doing a full review, just from looking, just from my observations on this video, the Nissi JetMag filter system is the best in the market right now, in my opinion, in terms of just what you get in these filters. Okay, not only do you get the good image quality, you get the good performance out of it, but the practicality, obviously, but the cinema, they have different versions of it. I think there's one made for photography and one for cinematography. So I got the cinematography version, and that one comes with the 1/8 mist, an ND4, ND8, ND16, ND64, and obviously you can stack these. It also comes with a true color circular polarizer, and that's about it. So a total of 6 filters and the front caps and whatever you need to attach to your lens. So again, when you buy the 82 millimeter version, you get, I think, lens attachments, step up. You get lens rings from 6 to 7 all the way to 82. And then if you buy like the 95 millimeter version, you get 86 and 95 millimeter rings. And again, you could buy just the 86 and 95, and you could add an additional step up ring to 86 to be able to use the bigger filter system, so you don't have to buy like 2. If you do have like a 28 to 70 GM, and you have like for my sake 67 millimeter 24, I have 67 millimeter filter thread a lens right now, where I'm just using a step up ring to be able to use this Nissi filter on it. So yeah, that's my quick overview of the Nissi Swift filters. Hopefully it helped you make a purchase decision on your next, hopefully it helped you make a purchase decision on your filters. If you want, in my opinion, if you want the best of the best magnetic filter system out in the market right now, I would get the Nissi JetMag. With that being said, guys, appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps this video. It helps me as a creator, obviously. And until next time, lighten up. Hey, man, what that on your camera? Just testing out the Nissi JetMag magnetic filter system. They's released this in the 86 to 95 millimeter filter thread size, especially useful for the new Sony 28 to 70 f2 GM. GM stands for Got Money lens. Oh my God. magnetic filter, it rat and unprofessional. Come up too easy. Well, actually, these magnetic filters has a locking mechanism. Not only that, the magnets are already really strong. To lock it, all you gotta do is line up the notches to the white line on the filter adapter. If you don't have nail, that's too hard for your finger to take off. I don't know what you're talking about. The same notches used to indicate where to lock the filter is also there for you to grab onto to take the filter off without touching the glass. Let me show you. Bro, what are you talking about? Quit making stuff up and over-exaggerating. You need to go to Bud and Hofer, Nail and Massage. Buy manicure pedicure with happy ending for only $29.99.